Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.
First episode in February, and I know that because I have a calendar on the table that keeps getting beer on it, and I flipped it to February today.
So we can put more beer on that page?
Yes, every page will be stuck together by the end of this. Like all my issues of Good Housekeeping.
Best non-sexual magazine.
Non-pornographic.
Non-pornographic.
Yeah. There you go. Hi, by the way,
I had to fuck it up.
My name is Willows.
And my name is Tyler.
And welcome
Bergen.
to
Not that Bergen.
Alcohol
If you know, you know.
Beyond This Point, the podcast where we discuss business and life topics, both sober and drunk. Both of us are very, very low energy today, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Just our little chat before the podcast
We've
here.
just been sitting here in silence.
Yeah, he walked in, and I was just playing Tetris in silence.
Typically, last week you were like hammering out 11 pages of like a business proposal, and this time you're like...
I was like sideways in my chair, just playing Tetris on my computer.
Welcome to entrepreneurship, where shit's dramatically different.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I didn't even drink that much last night. I don't know about you, but like I didn't even have that much.
I drank quite a bit yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have that much to drink. We went out last night to a new bar that just brand new opened, and it was fun. We had a good time.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, we're between COVID and...
Or just going to like a new bar.
Yeah, well, we used to all the time, right? And then I guess COVID kind of fucked that up, and then the businesses and whatever, and like we just hate each other now.
Yeah.
The only reason we hang out is because we do the podcast. This is
barely stand each other.
Yeah, we don't even have a friendship. It's just like... Yeah, that happens all the time where there's like two famous TV hosts, and then they always try to like do like separate careers, and they fail miserably, so they have to come back to do the like, but even though they hate working with each other.
Like the My Favorite Murder Girls, they I think they reached a point, I guess they didn't have like a very deep relationship before they started their show. Like they knew each other, they were friends, but they weren't like really close friends, and they went on tour together, they were doing the podcast together, they're just like, you know, working together constantly, and it was like a partnership just that kind of blew up out of nowhere. And you could tell, I forget what season it was, but like you could tell that like there was tension between the two of them, and they would like just say like snappy shit to each other, like during the episode they'd like snap at each other in like not a funny way, and it was like you
know, it'd be great.
It's like when you're in the room when a couple you know is arguing and you know it's gone past the joke.
You know, it'd be great is if one of them killed the other one.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
And then it was like, you know, it's a murder podcast, and then there's like a real murder mystery.
Yeah, that'd be great. But no. So long story short, basically, apparently they actually went to like a relationship therapist, and they just like fixed their shit.
Do you want to do that?
And they're like best of friends.
That'd be good content. We go to a couples therapist.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you're already famous. I don't know if you want to air that much shit out there.
It's funny,
but I don't think it would be. I think it might be kind of sad. Might ruin the magic.
We learn how actually we are deeply fucked, and like just
Yeah, no, we don't need a relationship therapist. We just do drugs.
You mean drink alcohol, which is legal in this country?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah,
right. But alcohol is a drug, kiddos.
Yep, it's a hell of a drug, and so is life. So, like I alluded to at the beginning of this podcast, minutes before we started broadcasting, we now have a new interim leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, which is Candace Bergen, who is
from your neck of the woods.
Probably not related to me.
Probably not,
to my knowledge.
To your knowledge.
But is from my hometown.
Yep.
And is like the representative of that riding in that area, and
she's kind of a nut, I think.
Makes me kind of nervous, knowing the people from the place that I'm from, that one of them is not a leader of a national party. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. She can't run for the next election. If you're interim leader, you can't run to be the next leader. So it is not that big of a deal, but it's still kind of fucking weird. Like I grew up with one of her kids. Like,
how was the kid?
Never noticed them.
Yeah. Okay. My My friend went to school with the daughter. I don't want to be too specific, but a daughter of a prominent politician in Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
And just said it was just the most spoiled one of those girls. It's like, oh, my parents got me a fucking Mercedes at 16, but I wanted a pink one and it was white and I fucking hate it, like that kind of person.
Yeah. The worst kind of person.
And then now their mother is a prominent Manitoba politician.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it breeds. There's definitely like those family dynamics definitely got to be fucked, right? A lot of them.
Oh, here's a fucked family dynamic for you. So my client today he's a realtor, well established in the city, and we just have so many friends in common. We're just catching up on whatever, filling in each other's news and updates.
Oh, okay.
So I asked him about this one realtor that was just like, seemed to be on every fucking sign in his area. Like anything north of the city, it's this guy. He's got a great head of hair, looks like, John Travolta in the 90s, and he's got like this little dog, and it's a weird vibe. But yeah, his fucking face is everywhere. And I'm like, who is this guy? Why does this guy have more listings than every other realtor combined? And he's like, oh, that's Nygard's son-in-law.
Oh, wow.
I'm
really?
like, what? Talk about fucked family dynamics, dude. Can you imagine being that guy's son-in-law?
Peter Nygard, for those of you who are not aware, is a now disgraced Winnipeg-based fashion mogul who had a Epstein-type situation where he had a children rape kind of island kind of thing.
He had a lot of problematic shit.
Yeah, he's
in jail.
He's in jail. Yeah,
but he's like 90, so he fucking got away with it.
Yeah, he raped I think like over 100 women over like 60 years.
And those are just the ones that
came forward and weren't murdered and buried on his property. Allegedly, that was just me making a little bit of a joke at his expense. I don't know if he did that. Please don't sue me.
But yeah, this guy was a nut. He had an island in the Gulf of Mexico. No, it wasn't Gulf of Mexico.
Nygard?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like and he was like building his own.
Was it Dominican?
Yeah, and something the Caribbean somewhere, and he was building his own he was building the island bigger, and the government's like, stop doing that, and he's like, no.
Yeah, and he would fly in people on his private jet to his island, and he never went through customs, and he would just like fly these people in, like artists and contractors, whatever,
and then take their fucking passports.
Yeah, and then they would get arrested, and then he would have like some showdown, big negotiation with the local government. He'd pay them off. They'd let his people go again, and then if you go work for Nygard, you're probably gonna end up in jail at some point.
Yeah, because just from association.
Yeah.
He
was present when NAFTA was written.
Yeah, apparently,
which is fucked.
Apparently he was like heavily involved. Like there's pictures of like Mulrooney, Clinton.
NAFTA, for those that don't know, is no longer a thing thanks to Trump, but North American Fair Trade Agreement, negotiated between Mexico,
the cum states.
Yeah,
Canada, America, Mexico, the cum states.
That's pretty good.
Anyway, my buddy, I won't say his name because I don't want to associate him with this, but actually worked for Nygard at a pretty high level, like a operations kind of mid-level. And he would call company-wide meetings, like get all the branches into one building and then talk for half an hour about like his fucking workout and then just leave. And like refuse to elaborate and just leave, and like everyone's just standing there being like and then like a manager would be like, I'm sorry everyone, go back to work. Like
it's like he's fucked.
And this is a man who was injecting himself with stem cells.
Yeah.
Before he would travel to Switzerland to do it because it was illegal here in the like 70s or whatever, and he would take these like non-approved for human he was like basically the guinea pig of like stem cell research to make himself like younger.
Pretty good. I mean, if you can afford it.
Yeah, and he's had a significant amount of surgery and
yeah, he for what the 50th anniversary of his business, he just bought like half the billboards in the city and just like
made it him
and just put like a super airbrushed photo of himself on these billboards celebrating his 50th anniversary.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
And
he'll probably die in jail. So
well, I saw a picture of him that was like at that around the same time that those billboards were up, and it was my friend was at this event and he was sort of taking pictures. I'm like, who the fuck is that? And he's like, oh, that's Nygard. I love Photoshop. It's great.
Photoshop's a great. It's Groundhog Day.
Ooh.
Happy
what
Groundhog
does that mean?
Day.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so Groundhog Day is one of my favorite holidays. We always celebrate it at Shrugging Doctor at my winery. We always have like a Groundhog Day sale. So Groundhog Day, they take a groundhog, and if he sees his shadow, then there's going to be more winter.
Who takes a groundhog and where is he?
The groundhog, Puxtatony Phil. They just have this fucking groundhog. No, I'm not even kidding. This is all a real thing. They have this weird fucking groundhog named Puxtatony Phil that lives in like fucking Connecticut or something.
Oh,
and
no.
There's like,
what about Manitoba Merv?
No, well, I'll get there.
Okay.
Manitoba Merv is a puppet.
Yeah, but he has a 98% track record.
Perfect. Manitoba, yeah, we have a version.
Because 6 more weeks of winter is still early spring.
Yeah. We have a version of Puxtatony Phil. Puxtatony Phil is a real groundhog. And they've gone through like 80 of them in the last like 40 years. Because groundhogs. And they just name it the same thing.
They just expire.
And they have like a secret society that's like... It's a whole thing. Anyway, but we have a version of that called Manitoba Merv, who's a puppet. And he
always calls for more winter.
Does he do that?
Probably.
Probably. So
that's a safe bet.
Happy Groundhog Day, buddy.
Yeah, it's 50 fucking below today or tomorrow.
Yeah, it's supposed to go down to -50. I'm just like not in a high energy mood today.
That's fine. Lean into it.
It's cold. I'm a loveless loser who will never find anyone who even tolerates him if I don't do a podcast with them. It's the only reason my friends want to hang out with me is because I give them money, and I have lost almost all hope.
Have you ever given any of your friends money?
Probably like just for free?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Exactly. No, you have not. Willows, if anything...
What? Tyler?
Nothing. We're not fucking going there, okay?
But I'm sad. I'm in a bad mood. I'm actually not even in a bad mood. I just feel like drained. Like there's no... I just want this pandemic to be over.
I think we just went too hard yesterday and we got the Rona.
Do we? Yeah, we have coronavirus. I was at IKEA today. And I guess they give you like... these like markers to mark that you sat at the table, I guess, so that the staff knows to clean it. But I didn't understand. Yeah, the guy cashier had an accent and I didn't really understand him. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And then I guess I sat at a table that already had markers.
Okay.
So I definitely have COVID.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it lives on surfaces, even though that was like a thing we believed for a week. And now grocery stores still sanitize surfaces, even though like 2 days after the CDC announced, hey, maybe it lives on surfaces, they're like, oh no, never mind, it's airborne. But 2 years later, places are still fucking sanitizing surfaces, even though that makes not a single bit of difference for COVID.
Yeah, fucking Carly has to sanitize everything at the kickboxing gym.
Yeah.
And
same with the farmers markets I do.
Yeah, and everyone wears masks and gloves. Obviously, gloves like boxing gloves.
Yeah.
And unless you're like licking your boxing gloves, you're not going to be transferring. There's no point of contact that ever transfers between people, but they still got to sanitize fucking everything.
I love sneezing on your boxing gloves to get extra poison damage.
Yeah. Absolutely, you should do that.
That's how that works.
Yeah, just put AIDS on them.
Excuse?
You know, like Magic Johnson?
I saw... I don't know who tweeted it. I think it was a prominent right-wing American figure. I don't know if it was a elected person or a media person. I forget now. Or I didn't recognize the name when I saw it, but it had tens of thousands of retweets. And it was like Magic Johnson at a football game. without a mask. And the guy was like, you have a HIV positive person without a mask at a sporting event, but my kid has to wear a mask in school. Fucking liberal logic.
Spicy take right there.
I mean, it is certainly a take.
It is words on
those are words
a screen.
I don't think they've ever been put together before, but those are certainly words. I guess they don't know how HIV spreads.
If you're gay, obviously.
Yeah, just like Neil Young.
Yeah, don't be gay and then you won't get AIDS.
Yeah. So Neil Young and Joe Rogan, that's a spicy topic right now.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to plug or bring that up because I just saw, was skimming an article right before we started. They haven't released an episode this week yet.
JRE?
Yeah. Like the
Suspicious.
show's quiet. The only thing he's released.
He did that 10-minute video of him like Paul. He was basically like I'll try to have different people on the show and.
No, he didn't even say that.
Yeah, he did.
No.
He said I'll try to have like differing views, like people with different views.
He didn't say I'm gonna have different people on the show. He's had the right people. He just has them too far apart. Like he's had just as many people that are pro-vax as those that come in and sow doubt on the vaccine, right?
But it's like a bunch of big headers in a row kind of thing.
Right. It's like a couple of negative ones in a row, and like the positive ones were like 2 months ago. And what he said is like I need to have opposing or alternative views like back to back or balanced so people can kind of digest them together, because he has all these diverse. I've listened to every single episode that he's had related to COVID.
Yeah, he has people calling him an idiot right on the fucking thing.
Yeah, they're calling him COVID conspiracy theorist Joe Rogan. It's like the guy's literally saying the same shit everyone else is saying.
Yeah, 95% of the people criticizing Joe Rogan have never listened to an episode.
You can tell they haven't listened. Like some of the shit that they're accusing him of, and I think he made a good point. He's like, when you like 6 months ago, if you said that if you can get the vaccine but you can still get COVID, he's like, you would get your social media account taken down for that, and now fucking every single talking head out there is saying the same thing. That's the generally accepted knowledge.
Yeah, which is because science changes, right? Like
exactly. So the point is, why can't you, like, why is it fucking wrong to question the science, like in the way that he does, where he brings on literally the guy that holds a patent for mRNA technology? Like, that's, I think, probably one of the most valid ways you could discuss this as an issue.
Well, and that guy's anti-lockdown, right? Anti-mandate.
Robert Malone?
They took him off. They took that episode off. They, like, blocked it or whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fucked.
Which is funny because he's, like, the guy that invented it.
Yeah, that's fucked. That's totally wrong. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Like, just regardless of what his views are, like, he's a fucking scientist. Like, fine, vet the substance of what he talks about, but just because he doesn't agree with you, you take him down. Like,
it's like not publishing articles in journals that you don't agree with.
Right.
You still need to publish the fucking articles, right? Like, it's part of the scientific process, right? Like, where people have differing views in different ways, how they want to approach stuff.
Man, the left and the right just are both having a fucking war on free speech right now, and it's really annoying and really kind of fucking confusing, because I mean, what's happening on the right? They're passing laws and like
banning books,
and they're banning books that are just like the.
Do you see one of the reasons they banned that Mouse comic?
Mouse, yeah.
Which is a
graphic novel about the Holocaust.
Yeah, graphic novel about the Holocaust, but makes all the mice or all the people mice, to make it easier for younger readers. Right. And one of the reasons cited of they banning it was because of nudity.
Nice.
They're mice. They don't wear pants.
There's a lot of cartoons that should be banned on that principle. Like a lot.
Squidward, he's just wearing a shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, no shit.
Man,
that's pretty gross.
Yeah,
just got his tentacles hanging out.
Yeah, man. Like, banning books is fucking dumb.
It's a bad idea. And same with banning podcasts or banning episodes.
I agree.
Banning accounts. Like,
So-
fucking get Trump back on Twitter, man. That shit was lit.
100%. So I'll take the contrary opinion here.
Sure.
Wow, look at this. 2 episodes in a row where we went back to our roots of actually trying to argue. Giving a platform to people like neo-Nazis and anti-vaxxers just helps perpetuate their bad ideas to ignorant people.
Yeah.
Like, should we just publish Nazi propaganda because free speech?
So I think this is where it gets fucking fuzzy because
Like,
everyone has a different definition of propaganda.
Somebody is going to listen to Joe Rogan say he didn't get vaccinated, and Joe Rogan is a man who works out 8 times a week and eats fucking raw elk poutine, I was going to say pate, and, you know, is a fucking UFC fighter, right? Like, he's whatever.
Yeah, super healthy guy.
Say what you want about him, he's a fucking built like a goddamn refrigerator, like a vending machine. Like, he is a brick house. I would not want to take a fucking punch from that guy, even though he's literally 1.5 feet shorter than I am.
Yeah.
Say what you want about the guy, I would assume he's in a very, very good shape. He goes, wow, I just took ivermectin, I didn't have to get the vaccine, and it was a fucking cold. And some fucking fat woman in a trailer in Arkansas that with a QAnon hat is going to be like, well, I'm not going to get the fucking vaccine either. And then dies of COVID.
Yeah.
That probably has happened already. Where people listen to Joe Rogan and then die. Literally die. And their kids die. And their fucking husbands die. Because they are spewing flawed medicine advice. So where does it become our responsibility to protect people, to prevent that kind of stuff from being out there?
I don't think that there's anything that you should do on this, like, censoring speech front. Like, for example, I'm not saying that this is a good thing, but people that think that this is new, so I was listening to a podcast yesterday about the founding or the origins of the FDA and how, before we had anything like that, people were just putting copious amounts of formaldehyde into milk because they're like, some scientist is like, put 2 drops of this 60% or 40% diluted formaldehyde into, like, put 2 drops per pint of milk and it'll keep it, 3 weeks longer. So all the milk producers, and this is, Jill would love this is unchecked capitalism at work. It's the free market working. So all the milk producers are like, oh, so if we do lots of formaldehyde,
it'll keep it even
longer. So they just do fucking ridiculous copious amounts of formaldehyde and just started killing thousands of babies.
It's fine.
Exactly, it's totally fine. And this was already when there was the technology of pasteurizing milk.
Yeah, but it was easier just to.
They just didn't want to. They didn't want to retool their factory lines. So what they would do is they would cut the cream off the top of the milk, to whatever, make another product out of it. They would water it down like a 1-to-3 ratio with water, and then it would lose its color. So it was like kind of like milky, like a pale blue. And didn't look like milk anymore. So what they did is they would add chalk and plaster of Paris for more body to make it a little hardier, and then for the little bit of cream on top, they would add pureed cow brains, made like that's kind of like slimy, creamy finish. And then for the little bit of yellow tinge to bring back the color of milk like it's supposed to be, they would add lead.
Oh, perfect.
So they had formaldehyde, plaster of Paris, cow brains, and lead. And it was like, people were just fucking, and then it was also unpasteurized.
We should try to make a cocktail with those ingredients.
Yeah, they spent like the equivalent of something like 5 or 10 times what it would have cost to retool their factories on lobbying to prevent laws to go in place to make them pasteurize their milk.
It's just like, just pasteurize your milk and you're fine.
And they knew it was killing kids and like people.
Yeah.
But they're like, we would rather spend a few $1 billion lobbying to not retool our factories. And then, long story short, FDA eventually came in and started regulating food because it wasn't just milk that was like this. Virtually fucking every food out there, unless you were rich, was like this.
Just like now.
Yeah. Strawberry jam was like less than 2% of the volume was actually strawberries. The rest of it was like fillers. It was like literally floor sweepings, food dyes. But their food dyes back then was like a little bit of lead and a little bit of arsenic.
It's fine.
And like sometimes they wouldn't process things properly and then just fucking kill people. Like
I'm surprised we got this far.
So
like the Industrial Revolution just didn't kill everyone.
So on the media front,
yeah,
this was becoming known, and there was some scientists that did legitimate research and presented this to a paper. Let's say it's the Washington Post. They presented to the Post, and at this point, they like newspapers and stuff are like, they're not there for journalism. They're there to like tell stories about conquering other countries or about war or whatever. Like journalism wasn't really what it is today or understood. It's like objective research into events happening, and that's there's like a trust there, right? A public trust. That wasn't really a thing yet, but people still to a degree believe what they read. So when they were going to write an article about this guy's studies, they went to the publicist who worked for one of the dairy companies, and they're like, hey, can you like verify this? And this guy's like, oh yeah, sure. Went to the dairy company that was like being accused, and can you guys like write an article about this? So the dairy company just refuted every point of the study, and then that was published, and then the public's like, oh, I guess it's not true.
But that's free speech, though. I'm allowed to publish my milk blog.
Exactly, and thanks to this, like the cycle of unpasteurized formaldehyde tinted milk went for 60 years. Like,
so I guess
like
so
the shit's always
saying?
been like this. But like, what do? Do you punish the media, or do you punish the milk producers, or do you punish the politicians that willfully, took the lobbying money? Like, who do you punish in the chain? I don't think it should be the media.
It's a whole system that's
exactly. So blaming anti-vax hysteria on Joe Rogan, I think, is fucking reductive and really stupid.
When Joe Rogan's just a guy, right? Like he is
legitimately. He's doing a good job of what he's doing with having actually balanced views, and he's a lot more left than he is right.
Yeah.
And they're calling him a COVID conspiracy theorist when this guy's probably the realest guy on TV.
To be fair, people pre-COVID, people were calling him a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Because he had a couple alt-right kind of guys.
Yeah.
The guy that founded Vice, that guy.
Yeah.
Was on there. Gavin McInnes. And he had a couple other far right kind of guys on there.
Alex Jones,
a few more than once.
Yeah.
And yeah, but then he also had Bernie Sanders on, right? Like it's like,
yeah, and he loved Bernie Sanders.
And he has a ton of
it's a fucking
he
interview.
He had Kamala Harris on, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Pretty sure. Like, yeah, like
it's a goddamn interview show. He should have everybody on. Like,
yeah, well, Larry King doesn't get fucking shit on.
I was literally gonna say Larry King
for fucking having,
Okay, you want to cancel somebody? Cancel Oprah for the doctors that she platforms that are complete horseshit. There's this doctor,
Dr. Oz, right? He's a fucking quack, right?
Dr. Oz is an absolute quack. Dr. Phil isn't even a doctor. The guy's not a licensed. He's not a licensed psychiatrist.
Yeah.
But yeah, fucking Oprah platformed this guy that systemically raped close to 1,000 women and sold like completely crack cures and ran a cult.
It's fine.
And she platformed him and just like praised how amazing he was.
Yeah.
And like massively contributed to, the boom of his business. Like,
so okay,
nobody's canceling fucking Oprah for that.
So what you're saying is, this is my political philosophy. Recently, last like 6 months, I have finally.
You've met your final form.
Yeah, I've finally given up on politics, and I'm not a libertarian anymore, and I'm not an anarchist, and I'm not a communist. You know what I am?
An alcoholic?
No. There's two types of people in the world. Dupers and dupies. I'm a duper. That's what it is.
That's your political identity?
Yeah. And Joe Rogan's a duper. And the people that fucking take horse medicine instead of getting vaccinated, those are dupies.
Yeah, the guy didn't even say I took ivermectin and my COVID got better. He's like, he listed 17 things he did, and ivermectin was in the list, and that's the only one people
Yeah,
heard.
because he's a rich white guy in the fucking most developed nation in the world being like, yeah, I just gave it every drug I could. Why didn't he just get vaccinated?
He actually has a pretty good story about that.
Now he can't. It's too late.
Well, yeah, that's kind of why he hasn't. And
Yeah.
then also the idea, once you've had COVID, getting vaccinated, like, you dramatically increase your risk of adverse effects if you've had COVID and then you get vaccinated.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So far as the data I've seen, yes, it is worse. Like,
One of my favorite things right at the beginning of COVID, when he had Bill Burr on, and he starts talking about like, yeah, but do we really need the vaccine? And then Bill Burr's just like, shut the fuck up, you fucking meathead with your fucking American flag talking about shit that you don't know. Bill Burr always checks him.
yeah,
Because they're like really good friends in real
Yeah.
life, and he's always so real to him, and he's like he's the first one to call Joe out of his bullshit. He's not a fucking
that's so good.
yes man. And he's like, you don't fucking know anything. Leave this to the goddamn doctors. Like,
That's funny.
yeah.
No.
And there's another one where they were doing like a on stage comedy thing. And he's like, oh, you like that elk I gave you, Bill? He's like, yeah. He's like, do you think it made you more aggressive? And he's like, no, Joe, you fucking psycho. Like, it did not make me more aggressive. He's like, you eat a fucking steak. And, like, he's like, now I know why you did MMA for so long. It's because you have so much bullshit rage that, like, it's like you needed to fucking pummel people's skulls for 30 years before you could fucking, like, calm down and smoke some weed and shut the fuck up. And he's wearing like a Peaky Blinder hat. And he's like, with your fucking little rascal's hat. And he's just roasting the fuck out of him. It's so funny.
And I'm sure Joe is probably laughing
He's
his
dying.
ass off.
Yeah, he's laughing his ass off. But
Cheers.
yeah, we're going to switch her here into the segment that we call Shot Caller, the part of the show where Tyler and I take a shot that you, the audience, can pick. Today we're doing, you know what, you love it. It's the mainstay on this podcast, the Old Smoky Tennessee Whiskey Mango Habanero version. This is, if you listen to this podcast, you know about this shit.
It's fucking delicious.
Cheers.
So I think we should make Joe Rogan the moderator
Someone said
for the next presidential election.
there was a petition that got like 100,000 signatures for him to moderate Trump and Biden.
Name one person that's better
Better
qualified
suited.
for the job.
That girl that did it was really good though.
Yeah, I guess there's multiple too, because who did a really fucking bad job? It was
Oh yeah, there was one that kept letting Trump talk and then didn't let Biden talk at all or whatever.
Oh no, that was just the one where it wasn't that he did anything wrong specifically. It was just that Trump just decided to steamroll
But
a whole
remember
debate.
that one girl that was like, Mr. Trump, sit down, and like turned off his mic and everything.
Well, that
It
was
like,
because they learned from the first time.
Yeah, but whoever that was,
They gave her a
she
cutoff button.
She was good.
Yeah.
I really liked her.
Yeah, she fucking learned that lesson.
And she had some good questions and good leading questions. But is that election coming up soon? I guess like they start
24.
campaigning a fucking year before.
Well, midterms are coming up in November.
Yeah. So
November 11th.
does
or whatever.
Biden
No,
campaign?
not November 11th.
Does
13th.
Biden campaign for those?
No,
No.
this is the
half the Senate or whatever.
Yeah, it's people. I mean, because some of the Senate terms are like 6 years,
Yeah.
so sometimes people are up halfway between. So it's very likely going to flip at least Congress.
To Republican?
Or sorry, maybe it's both. Potentially both to Republican.
Don't the Democrats have the
They have both.
House?
They have all of it.
They have all of it and the presidency?
Yeah.
Why can't they do anything?
Great question. It's because if you want to pass anything in the Senate, you need a 60-40 majority.
And there's 50-50.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of independents, right? And Joe Manchin's a Democrat, but he's voting.
No, there's no independence. It's just 50-50.
I thought they were independents.
But they're each. Any of those independents are strictly within a party.
Okay.
Like nobody crosses the party line. Period. Not a single fucking senator crosses the party line. Like, it's impossible to pass anything.
Yeah.
Like, there is something like.
I know Tulsi votes for Republican bills all the time.
Yeah, but not on anything that matters.
Yeah, but nothing matters. Or everything matters, depending on how you look at it.
The only thing that is bipartisan is fucking defense bills. Like,
God bless America.
yeah, defense bills and budget. Like,
What about the bipartisan infrastructure bill that's going to fix all these bridges?
That was a budget reconciliation, only required 50%.
Yeah, because Biden removed the weight limits off bridges and then immediately a bridge collapsed.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I love...
Yeah, that's infrastructure improvement.
America is the worst.
I think it's amazing.
Me too.
But anyways, where was we going with that?
Well, can you blame Joe Rogan? Because, okay, so let's say I publish in a newspaper feeling shitty about your life. You know why? Because of black people. Join my neo-Nazi club. And I'm allowed to say that because of free speech.
Okay, as long as you post an address so that your enemies can find you, fine.
No, but here, my point, my point,
Open season, babe.
My point being, Nazism at its core is violence, right? They're calling for the extermination of Jews and minorities, right?
Yeah.
So even a non-violent Nazi is a violent Nazi.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Ideology.
By nature, it's violent.
And so am I allowed to publish Nazi propaganda? Or should the government step in and say, no, this is bad. This is inherently violent.
I think there's a big difference between publishing Nazi propaganda and like grilling a Nazi, because I think you can do a lot of damage
by just letting people talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But there's always people that will listen to, like, there's videos of Alex Jones that get posted that are like, look at this fucking idiot.
Right.
And it's just an unedited rant. And there's people that find those and go, holy shit, he's speaking facts.
Right.
This homie's spitting.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't think you can have any impact on that by censoring it. Like, censoring Alex Jones off of platforms hasn't done shit.
Well, you know what's funny
it initially really suppressed his following, but he came back.
You know what's funny is the same liberals that are denouncing the book bannings also want Joe Rogan banned.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's fucked.
It's interesting. And here's
the cognitive dissonance is phenomenal.
I was going to mention this earlier because this is how we got on this, actually. It was Neil Young recently said, if you don't remove Joe Rogan, I'm taking my music down.
Yeah.
And within a minute, no, within like a day, Spotify was like, yep, take your music down, buddy. And everyone, I like all my liberal friends are on, what's his name? Neil Young? Mm-hmm. Neil Young's side, obviously. And
because none of them have listened to Joe Rogan.
Well, that, and also, I don't know if you saw that post I put, like that quote from him I posted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said, someone asked him about AIDS, like, because this was in the 80s during the AIDS crisis or whatever. And he said, yeah, people are getting AIDS because you walk into a grocery store and there's a fucking faggot, his words, not mine, a fucking faggot handling your potatoes. And that's how, like, AIDS is spreading. It's, like, homophobic, disinformation, like, you're
platforming this guy.
This man who is railing against Joe Rogan for quote-unquote, medicine misinformation is like, yeah, I don't want those fucking faggots handling my potatoes because I'm going to get AIDS.
And also saying don't go to the faggots based on how they, like, judging.
Yeah, like how do you know someone's gay by looking at them? Fuck you. Like,
well, that's the next level. Yeah. It's like, that guy looks gay. I don't even know if he is. He just looks gay.
He looks gay, and
so he might give me AIDS.
He might give me AIDS,
based on his appearance.
Which not only is medicine disinformation right there, but also just fucking scummy thing to say,
and very hard to back up.
And he also in an interview, he said the word faggot. Like, imagine what this man says when he's not being interviewed.
Yeah.
Right?
Your age is showing, bud. People like to say, oh, it was a slip of the tongue. It's like, yeah, his mask fell off.
To be fair, this was the 80s. And apparently
doesn't matter.
Well, and apparently he has apologized for that kind of stuff now. But it's like, Yeah, because he apologized because he got caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because so I tweeted that article and that quote from him, and I said, "Excuse me if I'm not on this guy's side in this whole Joe Rogan thing."
Yeah.
So, fuck that guy, and fuck Joe Rogan.
Fuck everybody, I guess. Yeah,
Fuck you. Now that I think about it,
you in particular.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I think I'm a big proponent of give everyone any platform they can, and then like I agree with you. Like letting a Nazi just talk, letting like an overweight fucking neck beard white guy being like, we gotta eliminate the fucking inferior races, like with his fucking beer gut, like.
I think just encouraging those guys and letting them trip over their own
logic.
Over their own logic is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I love watching interviews of like flat earthers or people that believe like the moon isn't real. Just seeing them fall apart in front of a camera.
Yeah, when they usually can't
their circular logic, when it's not being echoed back to them by yes men,
yeah,
all of a sudden falls apart.
yeah,
Like,
they usually can't get two questions deep before
Right.
they're like, and then a lot of them at that point get angry.
right. Which then just makes it that much worse.
Which is why I like Joe Rogan's format,
Yeah.
because it's not argumentative.
Yeah.
They're just smoking some weed, drinking some drinks, and having a conversation. And even people that disagree with him usually aren't mad. They're not yelling. But if those same people, if Joe Rogan and fucking name a person were on a Fox panel, Fox and Friends,
They'd be screaming
screaming at each other,
Yeah.
because that's the format. But Joe Rogan's format is much laid back, and which I respect. I really like.
The world needs more of, not less of, 4-hour long-form conversations where people go in depth
Yeah.
into subjects versus
The
4-minute
2-minute
sound bites.
And that's what he was saying about Bernie when he went
Yeah.
on, was that like it's so hard, it's just the sound bites that people focus on, but you can actually dive, and you can you can ask follow-up questions, and you can dive deep into what someone believes. And especially for politicians, I think they should be forced to go on shit like this, because they can't have 4 hours of speeches memorized.
Yeah.
Like, they need to show a little bit of their fucking personality, right?
Yeah, I think people just lack the ability to understand that some public figures and some experts you listen to, nobody's right 100% of the time,
Yeah.
just as nobody is wrong 100% of the time. I think those are both very, very important things to remember. Mostly the nobody is wrong 100% of the time, which means no matter how much you hate someone or hate someone's ideas, they probably have something to teach you.
Yeah.
And like I listen to Democracy Now! On a pretty regular basis, probably like 3 times a week. I listen to their morning show, and they've been a long-running like show based in New York. It's like a syndicated radio show now, podcast. Been running like 30 years or some shit. Very left, like hard left. And the host, she doesn't even like pretend to have an unbiased narrative. She's like, I'm the voice of the left, and I'm gonna fucking crush you with leading questions. But they also have a very good like counter perspective to like what to what mainstream media is putting out. So for example, some bombing happens in Israel, they'll have someone like on the ground in Palestine that's like in an apartment building that's like watching bombs fall, like because they're counter narrative, right? So that's fantastic journalism. It's good to have those views. And like same with the climate summit, they were talking to people like outside the summit that were protesting it. They're talking to those protesters at ground level. But then at the same time, when she's reading headlines this morning, she's like, COVID conspiracy theorist Joe Rogan is, up against this and that. And it's like, how the fuck are you even saying that? COVID conspiracy theorist. It's like, I haven't heard a single conspiracy theory out of the guy that's not completely valid. Like, what, the lab theory?
Yeah.
The lab leak theory? Like, what, is that the conspiracy?
It's funny. I shared it in the group chat. I had an article I saw that was, apparently ivermectin is making proving efficient in treating COVID.
Yeah.
In a test that just got released, or a trial or whatever. And I shared it kind of laughing, but then I was like, is there a single right-wing conspiracy theory that hasn't proven true?
Yes, lots of them.
Okay, no, but like, bear with me here. Do you remember when at the beginning of the pandemic, they said number one, they started with 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Mm-hmm. No one's trying to lock you down. No one's trying to take away your fucking your rights. We're just closing for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
First one, obviously everyone with a fucking brain. We talked about this before. The reason they said that is because they didn't want to panic people.
Yeah.
But no one
thought
the
panic buying was already bad.
No one, the panic buying was already, people were getting fucking trampled for toilet paper, right? No one thought it was going to be 2 weeks, but whatever. But start there. And then go forward, where I remember that when the vaccine, pre-vaccine, they said, all we need is a vaccine and then we're good. We're out of this. Right? And right-wing talking heads were saying, when is it going to end? Like, they're not just going to fucking give up these powers, blah, blah, blah. And then, now we're...
When they say they also mean the conservatives.
Sure. Yeah, yes. No, I agree with you,
They mean their own leaders.
But then 90% of people are vaccinated now, 91.5% in this province, and we're still more locked down than we were a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Thanks, Omicron.
Yeah, but that was one of the things they were saying, is that it's not going to end with that, right? And then when they were like, okay, well, when the vaccine passport and everything came in, a lot of these conspiracy theorists were saying, like, it's not going to end with that. They're just going to keep pushing the goal line. They're going to say, now you need 3 shots, now you need 4 shots, like, and that's happening now.
Right.
And then they were like, oh yeah, they're just trying to discredit ivermectin, blah, 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 blah. And now you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I keep hearing shit that's like, sounds like a conspiracy. And then it's like, oh, and then when you think, like, I respect, the person that comes to mind is Ice Cube, is anti-vax. And I'm a big Ice Cube fan from, NWA. And then, like, even his acting career, I really like, I'm a big Ice Cube fan. And I listened, so I'm like, oh, not Ice Cube, like, But then I listened to the interview where he talked about it, and he said, he was saying, like, I had family that was injected with fucking syphilis,
right,
by the U.S. government to just test. I don't even know what they were doing, and they fucking today, under Biden's America, they're fucking doing forced hysterectomies where they're taking out your uterus. Mm-hmm. They're doing forced hysterectomies to Mexican migrants when they come here on the southern border,
which is the same shit that they're accusing China of,
like thousands a year. And they like, the black people, they were getting hooked on crack, but they were like, more than that, they had like a fertility clinic, and if you came in, they would inject you with syphilis. Like, this is all real shit, right? Or
if you're homeless and looking for a place to stay, they'd like put you on acid.
Yeah, like,
see what happens.
And this is all real. So then, it's hard for me to look at, a black American saying, I don't trust these fucking government guys. Like, that's hard for me to not just say, well, you're a fucking idiot. Like, there is merit to that argument, I think.
Of course there's merit to the argument. Like, I would counter the narrative on, like, the right-wing conspiracy theories being right, because if you're the type of person that's that can profit or benefit off of spreading and talking about such things, I guess maybe like us potentially, if we talked like that. But you could predict, a reasonably well-informed person could have predicted all of those things. Like, it's not just going to be one shot, there's going to be multiple.
Well, of course, that's how fucking vaccines work.
The odds are dramatically in favor of multiple shots being necessary. Dramatically in favor. Most vaccines are like that. The whole idea of, like, lockdowns continuing. Like we talked about, I mean, my first assumption when lockdowns happened was, I said 18 months.
Yeah.
And then most pandemics last for 8 years. So, or, pandemics of this scale historically last for like 8 years in cycles.
We have better medicine, though.
Right.
Obviously.
So, but that's the thing, that when they're like, okay, once we get the vaccines, we're over this. What they're saying is we're not going to have an 8-year cycle. We're going to have 3, or we're going to have 4.
3 or 4. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, take that into perspective. Most people are like, oh, once the vaccine gets approved, bang, instantly everything's okay. It's like, but someone who's reasonable and
would be like, of course that's not true.
Exactly, and come up with a counter narrative, and then that's now a quote unquote conspiracy theory that comes true. Like,
well, and
most of these things are reasonable assumptions that get called conspiracy theories just because they're not matching the talking points of today. Like,
and I think
just not matching talking points makes you a conspiracy theorist. Like, that's fucked.
And that's a big problem too. Definitely, is that the media's narrative. It's so weird because I hate being like the fucking the liberal media is fucking biased and like, but I guess has like American media, North American, the Western media ever been unbiased?
No.
Right? Like it
used to be more biased. Like it used to
just be able to public. I'm
used
reading.
to be a given that based on which paper you were buying, you were going to get a specific opinion, and you took it with a grain of salt. It was like newspapers were not seen as truth; they were seen as like entertainment tabloids. Everything was a tabloid.
I'm reading P.T. Barnum's autobiography right now.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking fascinating guy. If you don't know about this guy, P.T. Barnum, fucking look this guy up. Fucking hilarious. And he used to just publish completely just lies.
Yeah.
In newspapers constantly. And he's like, and he admits in the autobiography, he's like, oh, well, whatever. Like, because he had this museum, this he called it the P.T. Barnum's American Museum in New York. And he had a bunch of shit, you know, animals and fucking, and this was in the 1800s, right? So he had like gorillas and tigers and shit. So that was like super cool, and like flea circus and like artifacts and whatever, right? Big museum. And he had a alleged mermaid that was actually turned out to just be a monkey sewed on to a fish.
Wow.
Skeleton.
Yeah.
But it was like not a skeleton, but like shriveled up, dead.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And there was this mermaid that was supposedly caught in a Japanese fishing net, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And it was probably, he said like 1.5 foot long because it was like shriveled up. But he was advertising it was like 8 feet long. And like he made this big banner that was like, and he was just lying. And he's like, oh, wait. But then how he justified it was, I would lie to get people in the door. And then when they were disappointed, but there was so much other cool shit.
Right.
It was worth their 25-cent ticket to get in.
So it was OG clickbait.
Literally, yeah. And it was like he did more good for the people, whatever.
Right.
And it's interesting, like he was publishing lies and it was fine. And now they're still just publishing lies 200 years later, but no one thinks about it. Like everyone thinks it's true.
I think everyone can agree that free speech is better than not.
I have people that
because I don't think, like, as soon as you talk about censoring certain types of speech, it's that slippery slope argument where it's like, where do you stop and
where do you draw
and
the
whose
line?
Definition of truth do you use?
That's the biggest thing, is that I think
we're getting into Orwellian shit at that
95% of people I think can agree here's where the line should be.
Right.
Right? Nazis shouldn't have free speech, but maybe far right people should, right?
I think Nazis should be able to have free speech.
I agree with you too, but I'm just saying, like, as a consensus, without government involvement, I think most of us can figure out where the line should be drawn.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we're seeing it with Tennessee banning books, is that if a government you don't like gets in power, if that system is in place to ban certain people because they're too far, all they have to do is say,
move the line.
Now that's too far. Yeah, and they move the line, which is exactly what's happening with the banning books, right?
Which is why it's so stupid that the left is playing this game of fucking cancel culture, because the right's being like, oh, cancel culture? Bitch, like, hold my beer. Let's see what we can do. Cancel culture? I'm going to cancel your entire county by removing your voting rights.
Well, it's the same bullshit with, like, this trucker convoy still going on. We talked about it last week. And it's like they're defacing statues and shit when they were pissed off at the left for taking down Confederate statues, right? And they're blocking vital trade routes when the water warriors, like defending, on the indigenous people fighting for their water, were blocking like a train track, they were like, run them over because they're stopping essential goods, and you can't do that. Your protest isn't going to work if you do that. And those same people are doing that right now. Like, it's just fucking, they want to ban, they like it when it's used against their enemies but not against them, right? Yeah, and that's what happens when you give the politician power to use it against your enemies. You're giving the next person in 4 years power to use it against you.
Yeah, and it's in Florida, the book thing, mostly, and they're crying, in the name of freedom, no restrictions, no mandates, no vaccine mandates,
and then meanwhile,
no masking,
canceling books.
And they're canceling books in the name of freedom. Like, it's double speak.
Yeah.
It's literally double speak.
Yeah.
If you haven't read 1984, fucking read it. It's gonna hurt because it's becoming more relevant every day.
If you haven't read Donald Trump's Art of the Deal, read it now.
Also read Donald Trump's Art of the Deal, yeah.
Yeah.
And Gary Vaynerchuk's, just keep recommending books.
Yeah. And the Alcohol Beyond This Point visual biography.
What is that?
It's just pictures of us drinking.
Oh. And then we release it as an NFT and then make
millions
of dollars.
Perfect.
Okay, so did you see that?
Take another shot here, quick.
Okay.
We're going to take a second shot because if we take a shot that's under 40%, we take two. That's the rule.
That's math. Okay, so this Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT fucking bullshit catalog with a
I'm aware of it, yep.
Market cap of $4 billion.
Yep. Yeah, I'm aware of it. Jimmy Kimmel owns one.
Fucking
Logan Paul owns like 4.
Fucking High Key Boys from Winnipeg here own a bunch.
Jordan Belfort, I think, has one.
Yeah, so good for them. I was just reading up on this recently. Of course, everything is ruined by Nazis.
True.
And apparently the Yacht Club is not an exception. So it was started by a group by the name of, I'm just pulling it up here. God, I don't even want to read this entire thing. It's so fucking dense. It's going to bore you to tears.
No one reads articles. Just read the headline.
Well, the headline is Bored Ape Yacht Club is racist and started by neo-Nazis.
That's all we need to know.
Okay, Yuga Labs. The Kali Yuga is a popular element of the alt-right traditionalist ideology, and Yuga Labs has gone to the effort to embed the traditionalist philosopher's name, Rene Guénon, who's credited for bringing Kali Yuga into Western thought and an alt-right icon inside one of their puzzles. Also embedded is the word macaque, also known as a racial slur. So it's like, it just goes deep into this. It's like, I'm not going to read it all. It's like fucking 10 points deep of like all the references to, the initial artwork and all the ideology and what it's actually all about. It's just like a bunch of like dog whistle Nazi shit.
Do you see someone?
And it's worth $4 billion, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is amazing." I think it's fucking hilarious. Like, this is bar none the best grift they've done so far. GG.
They, like the royal they.
The Nazis.
Anyone. Well, we've said
Nazis.
We've said it before. The NFT technology is the future. NFT art is dumb.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm just gonna say objectively brilliant. Like, good job, guys.
It's Gary Vaynerchuk compares it to the early advent of the internet.
Right.
Nobody used the internet for serious shit in the like late 80s, early 90s. It was all just dumb.
It was like porn in forums and chat rooms.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, and
drugs.
and
Lots of drugs.
99% of search engines are gone today. Right. And that's exactly what's happening with NFTs, is that NFT is the next internet, that technology. Maybe not, like metaverse is that. Okay, whatever. But NFT is a technology that's here to stay, that is going to revolutionize so many different industries. And using it for art is like the early internet where no one knew how to use the internet.
It was like the first idea of how to use a technology.
But it's I heard another good one. So Pizza Shop in America has NFT coupons where you buy the NFT, and if you can show that you own this NFT on the blockchain contract, you get 10% off all your pizzas. Now, for any reason, you can sell that NFT coupon to another person, and then they get 10% off all their pizzas. But baked into the Ethereum contract, every time it changes hands, the pizza shop gets paid for that.
Right. Awesome.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Couldn't happen without smart contracts and NFT technology.
It was actually, like, for example, the vaccine passports.
Why can't those be NFTs?
It should be.
Your ID is going to be an NFT.
Yeah.
We've all talked about this. Like, fucking Louis Vuitton, they're going to have NFTs associated with their bags to make sure you're not buying a fake.
Yep.
You can check the blockchain to make sure it's real. Cars, VINs. Why would your VIN? Just throw it on the blockchain. That'll make insurance way easier, right?
And theft impossible.
That'll put insurance fraud to zero.
And also, like, with cell phones already kind of have that sort of system. They have a serial number. They have, like, an IMEI number. So if your phone is stolen, that IMEI can be blacklisted from...
IME.
IME?
IME, right?
I thought it was IMEI.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
Literally doesn't. Yeah, it's a serial number, so if a phone is stolen, it can be blacklisted from every provider forever.
Yeah, and that can be a NFT.
Yeah.
Well, because, like, they just need to figure out a more efficient, like, gassing NFTs on the Ethereum network is inefficient. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
So they'll figure out a way to do it. Someone will.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, NFT technology is not going away. And the people that are laughing, I saw some, I follow like a Bitcoin, like a semi-famous Bitcoin trader. And he posted a video of, on like the Tonight Show with like David Letterman or whatever. They were laughing about the internet.
Nice.
It was a bit. They're like, you hear about this fucking thing? People can connect their computers. It's like, oh yeah, well, someone would have to have a computer first. Like, what are you going to do? Use it to fucking, like, why don't you just go call them?
Yeah.
Why don't you just go talk to them, you fucking idiots? This is never going to catch on.
Yeah.
The internet they're talking about.
That's why comedy should not be censored. Because even if that's counter science and counter narrative, I think that's a fantastic piece of history.
Yeah,
it tells you what people were thinking.
My other favorite piece of history was an episode of The Man Show with Jimmy Kimmel. It was a really misogynistic, whatever. The Man Show was on like MTV. There's an episode where they're like,
you don't say misogynistic.
Yeah.
Really.
There's an episode where they're on the streets. Or they like have a bit where they go on the street and like stick a camera in their face and ask them a weird question kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was like a running bit. And one of them was like, would you take a pill that boosted your IQ by 50 points immediately, but it gave you a big ass? And all these girls were like, oh God, no.
Right.
Because it was the 90s.
And nobody wanted a thick ass.
And having a flat ass was what you wanted.
You wanted to be skinny.
You wanted to be... all the models had fucking
You want to be emaciated.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like...
If you did that poll today, everyone's like, yes and yes, obviously.
I'll take the pill just for the ass, right? Like, yeah. It's fascinating how fast... And people forget that, how fast the standards change.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And because look at like... you look at the Kardashians... even 5 years ago versus now, and how much surgery they've done to make themselves curvier.
Yeah.
Because that's what's,
Yeah, they're setting the standard, literally.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
I kind of had a moment today. I was thinking about the book thing. I was thinking about the Joe Rogan thing. And I literally had a moment where I got really uncomfortable. Like, just deeply, deeply uncomfortable thinking about how some people, when I say some people, I mean tens of millions of people in the USA, the best I quote, armed country on the planet with like
11 guns per person or something.
11, yeah, like literally most of the guns, and the capacity to make more of them, and willingness to. They have such a deeply edited version of their own history.
Oh yeah.
I take it for granted that people understand the certain things about history that like are, cautionary tales about, politics, about racial politics and policy, about what it means to be hateful against a specific group of people, what it means to have a security policy against a minority that then gets turned on you, what it means to invent weapons of war that get turned on their own civilians, about, the slippery slope of intelligence, and all of these things I take for granted that they're understood. They're just not. Like, people genuinely believe America is the best country on earth. They do shit better than everyone else. They are superior, and some people to the extent that they believe that they're superior race. Like, there's soft racism
baked into their history.
It's baked into the diaspora of everything. Like, it's the soft racism pisses me off more than anything.
Dude, America first, Canada first, that kind of shit is just racism, right? Like, it's
just nationalism. Like, it's like white supremacy. It's nationalism. Like, so here's a pretty disturbing story. So this is from someone close to me. They're like, okay, so my sibling just said this like really racist thing yesterday, and the worst thing was I don't think they realized or thought it was racist at all. They're trying to figure out like their Tim Hortons app, and it was like kind of complicated trying to figure out how to like redeem points. It's not very obvious, whatever. A little bit annoying to go through. So like, I hope I get someone white at the drive-through window.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's like hard to understand the accent.
Yeah.
Of like, you get like a Pakistani, or you get some other person at the window that just has a thick accent, plus the drive-through thing, it's hard to fucking understand.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I hope I get someone white.
Yeah.
It's like just the basis of understanding that leads to that statement, that like the layered,
what's funny
the
is
layered assumptions.
The most Canadian thing ever is struggling with your Tim Hortons app, and then you're racist about it.
But in a really nice way.
Yeah. Well, I used to
not being like, oh, I don't want to see a brown person. It's like, no, I hope I see a white person so there's not an awkward encounter.
Which is, yeah, I know.
It's like one of the most disturbing things I've thought about.
I used to know someone who would call when they were calling customer service.
Mm-hmm.
If they got someone with a heavy accent, they would say, "I'm sorry, but I can't talk to you," and just hang up, and then call back until they got someone with not an accent.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like, yeah, it's hard. It's. I've never done that in my life.
I used to hire salespeople.
Yeah.
And I would automatically disqualify people if they had an accent.
Yeah.
Not because I gave a fuck.
Yeah. The customer does.
The customer does.
Yeah, which is sad.
In such a significant way that someone that had an accent had virtually no chance of success.
No, I agree with you. I think there's a reason why...
We tried.
Yeah, no, there's a reason why car sales, and you've been in car sales before, they hire a lot of minorities, but never minorities with an accent. Like...
No, that's getting... So in our city specifically...
We're a very diverse city
If
here.
you are a minority...
Yep.
They, like a car dealership, for example, will seek you out.
Because they want you to sell to the other people of your minority.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, getting a job as a car salesman as a white dude...
Yeah, is harder.
Is harder than if you were, I shouldn't say necessarily if you had an accent. Accent implies you're multilingual.
Yeah, the reason you have an accent is because you speak more languages than fucking I do.
Right. So the multilingual nature, like...
You know how bad my French is?
Right? Like, yeah, you'll see car dealerships advertise, like, oh, we hired this new salesperson, they're fluent in Mandarin.
Yeah. So then come here if you... So,
yeah.
But then that's exactly the same thing, is that those people are like, I hope I don't get a white person. I hope they have a Mandarin salesman.
Exactly.
which is interesting. Like, so
me trying to operate in Cleveland,
yeah,
I can't get shit done. I got a
'cause
white
they're
guy accent.
like 80% black.
Well, not just that they're 80% black. I'm just a fucking Canadian. I don't
Sure,
sound anything like a local. Like me
Okay.
picking up the phone and calling you for rent is like an Indian guy calling you about your social security number.
So
You just hang up.
I'll ask you a question. Is it problematic for people having the preference of someone with the same culture, like not culture, but let's go there. That's later. But me saying I would prefer to deal with somebody who I have a better communication with. Is that problematic? I guess not on its face.
If it's only that, then no.
Not on its face. Okay. My roommate Sophie works at a furnace supply place. She'll get people that say, "Can you pass the phone to a man?"
Yeah. That's obviously just
because they
right?
think she's not qualified.
It has nothing to do with communication. Like they've disqualified her before they've spoken to her
because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some people genuinely cannot understand accents. So
Yeah.
I understand that part,
Yeah.
but I don't think I will, caveat on that. I don't think majority of people that have this attitude do it strictly for the pragmatic
You think
reason of
most of them are
communication.
probably racist.
It's a soft racism.
And then they go, "I'm not racist. I'm just trying to fucking
Right.
talk to make this easier." But meanwhile,
But they're making generalizations or assumptions about the person's abilities or capabilities. Like Winnipeg's great for that because I explain this to my Cleveland people very often. Like if I, get someone in front of me that's, like a customer service person or a server, whatever, that's black. Like, I don't know if this guy is going to open his mouth and have a thick Nigerian accent. If he's going to be French.
yeah.
Or maybe he might even be German. He might have an English accent. Or on a rare chance, he's going to sound anything like a black person from Cleveland would sound.
Yeah,
one out of probably 50 chance he sounds like you're kind of black, what you think.
Yeah.
What you think a black person sounds like.
Yeah.
And
please don't say your type of black.
No. This is the way that I literally had to speak about it because this was like an open and honest conversation.
This episode is now called Tyler is Racist.
Tyler's racist. No.
Tyler's Racist confirmed.
Yeah, no, like these people that in my staff, they literally never left the city.
Yeah.
And I'm from a different country.
Yeah.
Like, getting on the same page took a lot of fucking groundwork.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like us exploring each other's cultures. We worked together fine. Like, work was fantastic. But, like, after work, we're like, so, like, what's your city about?
Yeah, of course.
And
I guess, like...
They have an idea of what, like, black people are like this. Black people are like that. Like, that's how my staff talked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would just sometimes interrupt them and be like, you know what? Like, it's obviously not my fucking place to say, but when you make that generalization or statement, I'm like, I just want you to know, like, your reality is completely different from mine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, most quote-unquote black people I know are, like, first generation, straight from Nigeria.
Yeah, we have a lot of Nigerians in Manitoba.
Like, has 2 PhDs but drives a cab.
Yeah.
Like, that is not your experience.
Which is another problem all in itself, right?
Yeah, it's like, no, your experience is, we've been drinking water from lead pipes for 175 years, suppressed by the white elite.
Yeah.
This Nigerian guy is not living that experience.
No.
Like, it's a dramatically different
Which is why I recommend if anyone has the fiscal ability to travel, they should.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't, and they can't leave their city. But I guess, okay, what was your first response when your friend told you this story about the Tim's app thing?
I was a little surprised, and I was like, I get it, but also, like, in the context of what else I know about this person, they're, like, also got a lot of light misogyny.
Okay,
and,
so
like, a lot of kind of...
I don't know this person from a fucking hole in the ground,
Yeah.
so I could see how one would say, what they're trying to say is, I want somebody here that can help me with my problem.
Or I'd rather not be in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. That's a hard one. Because, yeah.
That's why it made me so deeply uncomfortable. Because I'm like, I'm like, oh,
it's interesting.
I'm like, oh, that's problematic. I'm like, but is it though?
But is it though? Yeah.
So, I really like where this conversation has gone.
Yeah, me too.
Because
it's interesting.
The context of free speech and Joe Rogan and what he can say and what he can criticize and who he can platform, like, the shit gets so nuanced.
Yeah. It's hard. You can't, which is exactly your point. You can't just say COVID conspiracy theorist Joe Rogan because it's so fucking nuanced and small.
It's absurd. It's an absurd idea that he's a COVID conspiracy theorist, because majority of what he's talked about is based soundly in fact and science.
When COVID ends, he goes back to talking about fucking MMA, right? Like,
well, he's still talking about MMA. Like,
I know.
My favorite shows of his are just where he's like talking shit and getting high out of his mind with his buddies that
with
are
his
comedians.
Mexican tobacco.
Yeah, with his wacky tobacco in Texas.
Dude, like, you ever fucking listen to this guy talk? Most of the time, he's like, I'm a fucking idiot. I have smart people on the show because I'm an idiot.
Like I said, if you actually listen to the show, you would never say these things.
Yes, I agree.
So you just listen to sound bites. Like, I think it's really, really dangerous to, like, if you believe in freedom, period. Like, when I say
I don't. I think we should be all. I think fascism's the best government, but I have to be the dictator.
I was gonna say, but you gotta be God King.
Yes.
So unless you're Willows,
hello, vote Willows.
Most people believe in personal freedom and and like personal autonomy.
Not liberals.
But then they attach morality to it. But then they attach their own set of rules to it. Then they start putting on conditions. Like,
yeah,
by the second you add an and, if, or but,
either everything's okay or none of it's okay.
Like, but at the same time, there needs to be checks and balances put in place by society. But they have to be put there by consensus. But now consensus is the issue, because how do we choose a fucking democracy? Like,
yeah. Which is the whole point of politics in the first place, is because it's supposed to be representative of your constituents.
Right.
You're supposed to be speaking for the people that live in your district.
Yeah, but change the shape of your district and
now all of a sudden
make your constituency majority relevant to what you want it to be.
Well, and then we just have too many fucking people. I say this all the time when we talk about political structure. We have too many fucking people for democracy to work anymore.
Yeah. I like Jordan Peterson's take, which seems phenomenally disconnected from reality, but maybe it's just because I'm ignorant. He's like, everyone says there's too much people in the world. He's like, that's absolutely not true. There's not too much people. I think he's talking specifically from like an ecological, like, resource perspective, which is probably true, because resources are massively skewed towards
before COVID.
one direction.
I was like 80% on board with what Dr. Jordan Peterson said.
Yeah. See, here's where
now I'm like, he's losing me.
Here's one statement where he lost me, because he was on a panel where they were doing they were evaluating like negative ecological impacts of industry or whatever, anything in Canada, and he said the only ecological crisis that he had found was overfishing on the continental shelf.
Yeah, he's not a climate change guy, I don't think. Yeah,
which could be easily solved by just like having protected zones.
Yeah.
Which I think he said maximum 15% of marine wildlife needs to be protected to like ensure diversity.
Yeah.
Which seems extremely low.
But
I don't know the science.
I'm not a fucking I was gonna say aquamarine, which is rock.
You're almost an aquamarine. You're almost there.
What is it called? Marine biologist?
Yeah.
I'm not a marine biologist, but that
seems
I don't know enough about stars to disprove it.
So he's like, that's the only ecological disaster that I found. That's like actually a disaster.
But he's a psychologist.
Right.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like,
and
all his psychology takes, most of them, like, you want to get your fucking life in order, don't tackle it, like, don't think about it, because it's a giant project. Stop and clean your room. Start there.
Yeah.
Shit like that, I was like, wow, that's like a solid piece of, like, don't get overwhelmed with with life and depression. Just easy, attainable, clean your room.
Now the guy's like, climate change isn't real because mathematical models have too much variance.
And then that's where he loses me.
Yeah. But like, just on that front of, like, the only ecological disaster, it's like, what about destroying fresh drinking water?
Well, that's just happening in native, so it's fine. Like,
yeah, it's only on reserve lands, and
has a white guy been affected?
And the 7,000 times a year when pipelines leak.
It's fine. Yeah, and I was reading today, not a single oil spill has ever been sufficiently cleaned.
Why would they?
Well, I guess, but
they barely even have to report them. Why would they clean them up?
Yeah.
Like, there was another oil spill that just recently happened, and the company denied that it had happened, but by the time they acknowledged it, so this I had to actually explain to a friend the other day on how oil spills work. So pipeline. If you think pipelines just like move oil and then occasionally leak,
yeah,
you're fucked in the head. Unfortunately,
Oof.
Not by your own choosing.
From liberal propaganda.
Just from not bothering to look into it.
Yeah.
So pipelines leak so frequently and copiously that they just like changed the sensitivity level of the sensors, where it's like, if it leaks more than 500 gallons, then our sensor will go off, and then they investigate it, and only a percentage of those actually get reported as leaks.
How hard is it to just make a pipe that doesn't leak? I feel like that's really easy.
Not really. Not at this scale.
Just make a pipe, dum-dums. Okay, so here, counter argument, quick.
Sure.
Oil, we're just taking it out of the ground, right?
Yep.
So it's natural.
100%, yep.
So oil spills, not bad.
If oil spills happen at the bedrock level, then no.
It's like throwing a fucking apple core into the woods. It's not littering. It's fine.
No, it's...
Oil's not littering. It's fine.
Anyway. I'm going to move on from that comment.
We're going to transition here into our
I'm
final
going to finish my thought. So pipelines... pipelines leak a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah.
And they just...
And one of the biggest problems...
keep putting them through, like, critical, like, waterways, natural infrastructure.
And some of the biggest problems is the ones under, like, the Gulf of Mexico and shit that are...
Well, yeah, like...
under huge bodies of water.
Well, it's like these wellheads that just, like, pop off. And they just, like, they could be leaking millions of gallons of oil, and they'll just deny that it's leaking.
Yeah.
Because civil liability is a thing.
Yeah.
Or legal liability, financial, and whatever. So... There's a pipeline right now that's getting pushed through Canada, and people, on the right, they're in favor of it because oil good, natives bad.
I don't know. I always am so confused where like the masculinity thing with like gas cars comes from. Like,
it's really weird.
Dude, electric cars are cool. Teslas are cool.
They're fast as fuck, boy.
So I don't get why these fucking far right people especially, but all these conservatives are always like,
it's our jobs.
It's weird.
Dude, you got to realize half our politics is funded by oil money.
I don't give a fuck.
Like,
what?
This pipeline that's just been put in, it's like not even fully functional. It's not like technically up and running yet. It's already had 113 spills.
It's fine.
And there was another leak this last week where the company that owned the pipeline and whatever the source refinery denied that there was a leak.
Yeah.
But it was already so big that local native population.
Hey, there's oil in my bread.
Yeah. They were seeing it like on their shores, like it was showing up in fishing. It was showing up in the ecosystem. Like,
yeah,
God, there's a lot of oil. Like we're used to like some oil, because
there's an oil pipeline that's leaking all the time.
Yeah, but they're like it's like a lot right now. They're like, there's a serious leak, and they kept on like trying to report it, and they're like, no, it's fine, no, it's fine, no, it's fine, no, it's fine, no, it's fine. And it reached a critical point, and finally, like, okay, yeah, maybe there's a leak.
How many white people do you think you'd have to move onto reserve land to get the government to care about reserves?
Only one, if her name is Karen.
Because I feel like I want to just like...
Or Candace.
I want to build like an expensive condominium complex and then advertisement as like vacation homes and then move a bunch of white people there.
And then you tell them that the water is undrinkable.
And they're like, what the fuck? I can't have undrinkable water in my vacation home. And then they sue the fucking MLA. Like,
yeah, and then they crack open the tap and it's black and they're trying to take a shower and their like perfect blonde hair is turning black because the water is terrible. Like, it would get changed in like a month.
Have these fucking conservatives if they had to live in a reserve for a day.
Yeah, see, I can never be a conservative because I've done that.
Yeah, well, I've been up to like Peguis and stuff, and those are the good ones. Like, our friend Mitch, his family's from like one of the up north reserves. That's like, no, like he's described it as almost hopeless. Yeah, like they're so poor.
And my other best friend, that's not Willows. That's not really my friend.
Did you just imply I'm your best friend?
No, I deny.
You did. I think you did.
I can neither confirm nor deny. He grew up on the reserve with the highest murder rate in the country.
And suicides, right?
Suicide. Yeah. Like, highest murder and suicide rate in the country.
Wasn't it like 1 in 10 kids were killing themselves at a certain point?
Yeah, it was fucked.
It's fucked. Like,
and it's like an average of 1 homicide a year with a population of like 1,200.
Yeah.
That's like people you know killing other people you also know.
Yeah, word.
Annually. Like,
yeah,
really bad. Like, man, really fucking bad reserve.
We are a racist country that's so good at marketing that the first thing people think when they think Canadians is nice.
Yeah, we're that nice guy that's stealing your fucking wallet and fucking your wife.
That was my nickname in high school.
So on that note,
we're going to transition here into the final segment called Tip of the Week. Tip of the morning, top of the morning, top of the morning, top of the morning, where Tyler and I give you business, life, or political advice. This is a business podcast. We haven't said a single business thing this episode.
It's because business for you this week is Tetris.
True.
And me this week, I haven't seen a single...
Wait, isn't tiling essentially Tetris?
Yes.
Holy fuck. Anyway...
Wow.
So
I haven't seen anyone this week.
The segment
I've just been
is
solo.
We give you a fucking tip, and then you listen to it or you don't. I have a quick tip that no one is going to follow.
Perfect.
Before you share an article criticizing Joe Rogan for being a COVID fucking Nazi,
read it.
Watch the video they're talking about.
Right. God forbid you research what you post.
This isn't even a do your own research thing. This is literally, if you're going to share something that's commenting on a specific thing, watch that thing.
In full. Including, let me add to that, Trump's recent speech where he promised to give a presidential pardon to everyone that was involved in January 6th.
Yeah.
Watch the entire speech.
Sure. We won't even get any more to that. Just
it gets worse, not better, but okay. You should.
All right. But that is my tip of the week, is consume the piece of media that you are supporting the criticism of. Period.
For sure.
There you go.
Oh, I just want to pile onto that.
Sure. Riff. What's riff?
Riff raff.
Riff raff.
God, you dropped this on me cold.
He does this to me every fucking episode. Usually I give my tip and then go pee.
Yeah.
Which I'm about to do. Side note, my bladder is getting way fucking worse.
I think you should get a finger in your bum.
In the last 2 years. I do that often. But I am really scared of being old. Because I feel like old people pee a lot.
That's valid. Maybe you're pregnant.
This is getting worse. I was chalking it up because the last year I've been trying to drink a lot more water.
Right.
So I was chalking it up to that. But I think this is unnatural. I would piss 4 times when we were at the bar the other day. Yesterday.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Anyway, but every single episode, he's like, "Oh, you're just fucking dropping this segment on me." Like it's not just a
like it doesn't happen.
We do this segment every goddamn episode for 20 episodes, Tyler, and it's coming.
I'm so surprised.
You could, and every time, not only are you surprised, but you're mad at me for putting you in this position,
for bringing it up. We should just forget about it.
I like the segment.
No, so do I. It's just this is my bit. I just play victim. So my
hate
tip of the
all
week.
your bits.
My tip of the week is if you don't like something, just play the victim, and just claim that someone is infringing on your freedoms, and this mild inconvenience is a constitutional violation of your human rights and freedoms. And if any of this resonates with you, I have some fucking news. You might be on drugs. Actually, drugs might help a little bit. But I think the double speak, like just Google the term, read the whole book if you even care to, is getting so deeply baked in. It's post comedy at this point. It's post ironic. Like, you cannot literally make up shittier headlines than exist today. Examine your shit. I don't know if you, our handful of listeners, are a part of the problem, but maybe someone you know is.
Like, good example of that, I only heard the back end of what you were saying, but when people were sharing the article that said there were 57,000 trucks involved in the convoy.
Yeah.
It's like, just do 2 seconds of critical thinking? Of course not.
If you literally read the entire paragraph where that was stated, it was impossible. Within the paragraph, it contradicted itself.
Like, it's just not possible. Like, just fucking think about something for half a second.
And every time I challenge people on this, this
specifically, or like anything they like ridiculous.
I'll say this, both.
Okay.
So, anyone that said to me like, "Oh, 50,000 truckers," and so on, is like, okay. So first of all, the number was stated by the organizer, and then just repeated by everyone.
Yeah.
I know guys that organize things, and you take their number, divide it by 10.
Yeah.
That's about the truth.
Yeah.
A standard rule of thumb.
It's
That's
like
for most things. Never mind when it's like this.
When a girl gives you their body count, you double it.
Right, and a boy gives you
their
body
dick
count.
size, you reduce 2 inches.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. So fucking read your shit. Do some research.
Get smarter. Become a duper, not a dupee.
Yeah, stop contradicting yourself because you're getting duped, man. Like,
by people like us are making money off of you. If you donated, or if you were one of the part of the $6 million raised for the fucking trucker convoy, they duped you, buddy. They fucking
they're
duped
giving
you.
it to veterans? Like,
what does that mean? They stole your money.
They stole your money. And the last trucker convoy, by the way, this is the third one they've done. The last one they did had like 11 people show up.
And this one had 12, so...
This one just took off for whatever fucking reason.
Because people are pissed off, man. It's the fucking end of it.
Good for them. Be pissed off.
I'm pissed off too.
Go
right?
march. Be mad.
Whatever. Doesn't affect me.
I'm fully in favor of that.
Me too.
And one last to add to the critical thinking thing. If you're going to look at that trucker convoy and either support or criticize it, you just, like, if you're trying to figure out, is this a baseline of acceptable behavior or not? Is it okay that they did this or not? And because people try to use one thing out of context. Oh, these guys went in this homeless shelter and demanded meals and whatever, were assholes. Okay, riddle me this. You have a music festival.
Okay, got it.
Same number of people.
Yeah.
Same location.
Sure.
Will the behavior be better or worse than what happened there?
Probably about the same.
Probably about the goddamn same. People are the same everywhere.
People get sexually assaulted at music festivals. It's not like the music festival's a bad idea.
People wreck statues. People do vandalism.
Yeah,
people steal food. People harass business owners. People shit on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
When you get this many people in a concentrated area,
there's going to be dum-dums.
Emotionally ramped up like they are for music festivals. Like, make your baseline not another day in Ottawa where nothing ever happens and nobody gives a fuck. Make your baseline
another giant protest.
Just a giant gathering of human beings for an innocuous reason.
Human beings are kind of weird.
They're stupid as hell.
True.
So use your fucking noggin and realize that maybe the world isn't burning. You're just being told it is.
If you use your noodle, then you can use your other noodle.
And
this has been Alcohol Beyond This Point, the podcast where we talk about whatever we just talked about.
And thoughts are things.
And thoughts are Tyler, and Willows is also here. Alcohol Beyond This Point on Instagram. That's all you need to know. Bye-bye.
Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.